Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. Be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cells.
And then now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Lou Thez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast. Subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
What's going on, y'all? Happy Survivor Series weekend, and welcome to a Friday night edition of the Winged Eagle Podcast, coming up on kind of an odd night of the week this week, because I've just got different stuff going on. So I figured we'd be up here now. We'll talk SmackDown. We'll talk Rampage. We're going to predict Survivor Series. And, of course, the top story, the meat and potatoes of this podcast, is going to be discussing the latest batch of ridiculous fucking releases that came out of WWE yesterday. A bunch of names let go, including John Morrison, Tegan Knox, who the two of them you really feel the worst for, Drake Maverick, and the entire fucking faction of Hit Row. Yeah, I got a few things to say about that. So we're definitely going to be getting into that. And it's going to be your pregame for Survivor Series weekend. You've got my face 3 days in a row, possibly 4. You're going to see me tomorrow as well. I'm going to have a pre-recorded video, a Patreon-sponsored video coming up that's going to hit the channel probably tomorrow morning, and it's going to be a fun podcast on transitional champions, so that'll give us some extra wrestling content for the weekend. And then, of course, on Sunday night, you'll be seeing me right after Survivor Series for a full show review. So get ready for a lot of this bald head. At least right now, the plan is to also stream Monday night after Raw, because you would assume after a pay-per-view, WWE might not give us a giant trash can full of steaming shit as a show on Monday, and we might actually get something decent. So I'm playing Monday by ear. If Survivor Series leaves us hanging and we're like, damn, that was a great show, they set up something decent on Raw, we're definitely going to be here Monday to review the show. If they give us nothing and we all shit on Survivor Series tomorrow night, probably not going to do a Raw review. So you might get me 3 days, you might get me 4 days. Stay tuned, because I just can't, I don't have the stomach anymore to come up here and review shit shows. So at least for the end of the year, we're going to pick and choose our moments here and try to keep ourselves a little bit sane. But I think tonight's going to be fun. It's going to be very casual. The news that I want to get into is just a couple of things. I want to talk about Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ric Flair. That whole situation's very interesting. Some news on the Triple H sighting, and of course, all of those releases that we heard about yesterday. In addition to that, I'm going to blow through Rampage. This is a very WWE heavy podcast. AEW is only going to take up a small part of this, so I'm probably going to open up with just a quick recap of what we just saw on Rampage that just wrapped up. It was an okay show. I thought last week was better. This wasn't one of my favorite Rampages, but they did set us up pretty nicely for a Thanksgiving Eve Dynamite this Wednesday that's got a bunch of matches on there, including CM Punk versus QT Marshall. Very interesting. So we'll roll through Rampage real quick. Then we're going to talk those WWE releases and talk about all of the wrestling news. We'll wrap things up with some ratings, Raw, NXT, Dynamite, shit like that from the week, and then we will briefly run through what we saw tonight on SmackDown as well before I predict the entire Survivor Series card. And we did get one match added to the card tonight, a kind of an interesting one. They're going to do a Rock 25-year anniversary battle royal. We were all hoping we might see The Rock at Survivor Series. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case unless he surprises everybody. We're going to be getting a commemorative battle royal in The Rock's honor instead, kind of like the Andre battle royal at WrestleMania. So I don't think this will be an annual thing. It might just be a one-time deal. Omos is in this thing, so he's the odds-on favorite here, even though I'd much rather see this accolade go to someone like Chad Gable. They did add that. Bunch of names in that, but in terms of the other matches, the only one that really has a lot of interest behind it, because WWE has done such a piss-poor job of building this pay-per-view, one of the worst built pay-per-views of all time. I think there's a lot of interest in that Charlotte and Becky match due to the real-life personal shit going on behind the scenes that it appears like WWE is playing into a little bit. Anything that Becky or Charlotte say about each other in the media right now, I'm only half believing, because they also have this match coming up, so naturally you're going to want to play that up. If these two had nothing to do with each other and they're taking some shots, then I might be believing it a little bit more. But you could definitely tell there's some bitterness, there's some hard feelings. They are not as close as they used to be. And hell, if WWE really wants to have some fun, pull a worked shoot screw job. Because a lot of people have been talking about we might see a screw job at Survivor Series, because how the fuck are you going to do a finish here? With these two women, with these two fucking egos, you know, you're never just going to tell one of them to shut up, go out there and take your medicine and get beat right in the middle like a professional. Nope, they're going to do some schmaz or do some DQ or do something to where neither woman looks weaker than the other. But if they really wanted to have some fun, make it look like Charlotte has a falling out with the company. Screw her over, have Becky steal the belt away where she unofficially wins it, but now she's got both belts. I'm Becky 2 belts again, fuck you. And then Charlotte storms out of the arena, and WWE legit in real life grants her her release and allows her to go to AEW to be with Andrade, with the understanding that she might come back in a couple of years. Kind of like how some fans feel Bret Hart and Vince McMahon orchestrated the whole WCW thing. A lot of people felt the screw job was a work, and Vince sent Bret to WCW to infiltrate it with the understanding that in a couple of years, when that 3-year deal that he had is up and WWE's in a better position, he'll come back home to the company. A lot of people thought that was what the plan was. So maybe WWE could do that. And you talk about a fucking forbidden door being kicked down. Holy shit. Could you imagine if they gave her an unconditional release and she showed up on Dynamite right after Survivor Series? Holy shit. That would be good. Maybe Tony and Vince had some secret lunch where they put all this together. Are we going to see anything like that I just laid out? Hell no, we're not. And I think the match has a chance to either be really great or one of the biggest clusterfucks in history. And I think WWE is going to be lazy in this booking of this match. And I think they are not going to have the nuts to actually go with a winner here because they're weak, pathetic, and lame. So is it interesting as the backstory between Charlotte and Becky is? Not sure how the match is going to come off on Sunday. So anyway, there's a little run through of the menu this evening and some of my overall thoughts. I want to cruise over here to the chat and say hi to everybody that was waiting. Good to see Tatanani in here, and Josh and Monique and Janine and Joshua, Michael and Barry and Divine and David and Victor and Deshaun. Monkey Wrench Party. Glad to see all you guys here. Jay Lambo's in the house. Charlie, Alex Dredge, what's up, man? Ben Forbes, Rodrigo. We've got Transferring Heat. We've got Alex. We got Big J. Right on. A little crew in here so far. Do me a favor, smash that thumbs up button. I have done a few Friday night podcasts before, and they don't perform well. So those of you who are here, I would really appreciate a like and that sort of thing. Also, on my channel right now, the link to Survivor Series review is up there now. But the video that I'm releasing tomorrow, I'm just going to upload to YouTube tomorrow. I'm not going to do a premiere or anything like that. So the Transitional Champions podcast will just be released probably tomorrow morning for you guys to listen to. But the Survivor Series link is available now over on my page. Just check it out and save it for Sunday. And we'll see. I have a feeling, the talent and everything based on the card here. I mean, there's a couple of interesting matches. Damian Priest, Shinsuke Nakamura, that'll be fun. I think Big E and Roman's going to be fun. And I think the 5-on-5s will deliver. So I think overall the action we get in the ring is going to be fine. But everything building up to that and surrounding it is crap. And the only thing that they have that's even remotely interesting is something that happened by accident with the real-life personal issues between Becky Lynch and Charlotte and that entire belt-swapping segment being such a debacle a few weeks ago. If not for that, going completely not as planned, they wouldn't be sitting on much of anything of interest here at all for Survivor Series, because I think I speak for most fans when we don't give a fuck about brand supremacy. I could absolutely give two fucking shits who wins between red and blue. Do not care at all. And I don't think anybody should. So we'll see what we get on Sunday for Survivor Series. Like I said, it's a big market. It's New York. It's not like WWE's got the shittiest talent in the world. There's a hell of a lot of awesome wrestlers participating this Sunday. So I think they are going to carry the weakness of this pay-per-view on their backs and at least deliver us a decent night of wrestling surrounded by a whole bunch of fucking camera cuts and Kevin Dunn's fingerprints and bullshit all over the show. Can't wait. We'll be here watching it. Good to see Mike Witt back and Denny Down Bad. Good to see you, man. You're only 19, seeing how hard WWE is falling right now. Over my lifetime is surreal. Yeah, and you're 19. Many people thought WWE had already hit its downfall before you were even born. So, yeah, I mean, especially now, I've been talking about that lately on Twitter. I mean, I've made a point in my head just to say, at least until the duration of the year, I am not going to give WWE 100% of my attention anymore. Nobody is watching Raw. The numbers are terrible. These shows are so awful and uninspiring, and I've been coming up here for years and reviewing them, and our audience has gotten lower and lower and lower, and the interest is just lower, and ratings are lower. And I'm like, you know what? Just not going to do it anymore. If there's a great Raw, we'll be right up here reviewing it. Otherwise, I enjoy kind of going out to dinner on Monday nights and doing something else and just getting away from this shit. It makes stuff like tonight's SmackDown a lot easier to watch. So I think until WWE gets their act together, if Monday becomes must-see TV, I not only will be up here reviewing it, I'll probably do watch-alongs of this shit again. But until that day happens, I am. They don't deserve me. Basically, they don't deserve me as a fan. They don't deserve you as a fan. They don't deserve half the wrestlers they even have under contract to them. They don't deserve anything they have. They are, as we're going to talk about here with the releases, they're a bunch of assholes, all of them over there in WWE, and they're just not they just don't have a really good look attached to them right now. So, anywho, enough with the ranting and nonsense. We got to backtrack and go all the way to the beginning here and start getting into our stuff. I ran through the schedule for the weekend, let you guys know what to expect tomorrow, Sunday, and possibly Monday. Let me shout out and say thank you to all of our current subscribers on the Patreon page. Thank you to Kaylin Scott, to Divine Ricks, JJ Legg, and Akita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Jay Smoove, Deshaun Robinson, Martin Can, Alex Dredge, Apron Bump Podcast, Alan Carter, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dogs Kennel, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, John Redifer, Claudio Clavedetster, Daniel Rodriguez, Barry MK, I almost thought I said you twice. Josiah Blevins, Scott Moss, Domanion, Ewell, John Riffle, Michael Cuomo, Naveed, Keith Salyers, Blake Moran, as always, dudes. Thank you very much for your years of support on the Patreon channel. And speaking of Patreon, tomorrow, like I said, sponsored review, Transitional Champions, really fun podcast, and it was a fun one to edit as well, and that'll be up tomorrow, and I think you're going to like it. And it'll be up on the website in podcast form and all that good stuff. So before we get into those releases, let's just run through Rampage. The reason I want to do Rampage now is because this entire podcast basically is WWE related. Everything we're talking about seems to involve WWE in some way. So I think we just need to bust out Rampage now. Otherwise, that's going to be all out of place if we just randomly talk about it in the middle of the show here. So, like I said a minute ago, I don't think Rampage was really that great of a show tonight. It was okay. The hour-long show for AEW is always a very easy watch. I rarely struggle to get through Rampages. They're always fun. They're action-packed, and they're just, always something going on. I remember last week really enjoying the show. Tonight was just a little odd, and I think part of the problem was that first match. They opened up with an interesting one. Darby Allin taking on 58-year-old Billy Gunn, who looks like he's 28. The dude is jacked. I guess he's, training for a bodybuilding competition or something. How this dude is pushing 60 and looks like he does. He looks better than Goldberg, who's, just a couple of years younger than Billy. But, just ridiculous shape he's in. Although I don't think the match, it wasn't really my cup of tea there. I don't think that was the best matchup you could have put, because Billy Gunn is huge and he's tossing Darby around like a fucking toy, like a rag doll. Even at one point, Darby hits a coffin drop. Billy Gunn kicks out at one and basically no-sells the whole thing until getting hit with a second coffin drop and going down for the loss. So Darby did win here. However, he attempted a code red at one point on Billy, which also looked pretty bad. I think that match could have been booked a little better. So not the best Rampage match I've ever seen. Speaking of not the best Rampage matches I've ever seen, Jade Cargill did defeat Red Velvet in the quarterfinals of the TBS tournament. Red Velvet put up a hell of a fight here. I thought this was going to be a little bit more Jade squashy than it was, but Red Velvet put up a fight. I had no idea that she has a move called the Final Slice. That's fucking adorable, and I really appreciated how hard she was working here. Jade, still, like I said, needs help. I think Velvet made this match bearable, and it wasn't bad. In the end, of course, Jade Cargill gets the win and moves on. She will face the winner of Thunder Rosa and Jamie Hayter, which I think might happen on Dynamite on Wednesday. And I'm kind of thinking Rosa will come out on the end of that, and Rosa and Cargill should be an interesting match when that happens. Also, they set up an interesting match for Wednesday as well between CM Punk and QT Marshall. QT does a promo with Tony. He basically calls out CM Punk and challenges him to a match because Dynamite, I believe, is in Chicago this week, Punk's hometown, and says, basically references when Punk got his ass handed to him in Chicago in the UFC. And Punk would later then respond and say, yeah, I've lost here. I've lost big, but I've also won a lot in Chicago, and I got no problem facing you, QT, and we're getting Punk and QT on Dynamite. I mean, this is such a weird match. I'm like, QT's going to eat the GTS in like 5 seconds, but do you want to place any bets that you actually might get the upset of a lifetime on Wednesday? Don't forget, CM Punk walked away from MJF on Wednesday when MJF went to extend the hand. MJF's character is going to perceive that as disrespect. So Punk might lose to QT Marshall here if MJF or Wardlow or both interfere in this match and take out CM Punk, and you get QT pinning CM Punk on TV in the middle of a ring. That would be enormous. What a way to give Punk his first loss, right? I don't even know if I say that out loud if that's something I'd want to happen. I almost wouldn't do that. But it seems like Punk and Bryan seem to be all about, working with the young guys and trying to help do a lot what Jericho did and stuff and really get AEW some momentum going and establish some stars. That's why I think Bryan is there to work with Paige. Hopefully he'll put Paige over. And Punk, he'll never put over QT clean, obviously. But it would be like, I don't know, like when James Ellsworth was beating AJ Styles. He beat him like 3 times in a row. Did nothing to harm AJ, but did a lot to make Ellsworth until, before he became a creep. he was able to charge pretty hefty price for an indie appearance based on, the wins he got in WWE over AJ Styles. It could be a similar thing here with QT, although QT's got a job and he's under contract. So who knows? Who knows what we'll see on Wednesday, but I wouldn't completely rule out the fucking upset of the century on Wednesday and having QT actually beat Punk in Chicago. That fucking heat, that he might get, especially if MJF, had something to do with that. I don't know. Might be fun. We also got the announcement of Winter is Coming. It's coming to us on December 15th, so this should be a pretty good card. Last year was where the championship changed hands when Kenny Omega beat Jon Moxley, so they're doing Winter is Coming again next month, less than a month from now. That'll be fun. We'll be watching that together on that particular Wednesday. Transferring, I know. What am I smoking tonight? I can't show you, but I can't share it with you either. But yeah, if you're suggesting a QT victory over CM Punk, there must be some substances floating around in your brain. I admit it. But hey, just trying to have some fun, just trying to keep all of our options open. And I don't think you should ever leave anything off the table, except maybe. Well, no, never mind. Anyway, the main event was the advertised tag between reunited Undisputed Era members Bobby Fish and Adam Cole taking on Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. We had one of those Mark Henry split-screen promos prior to the match with the Elite, Christian, Lucha, and Jungle. They talk some shit. Match goes on, pretty decent stuff. Bucks run out there and Christian fends them off with a chair and runs them off. Cole winds up running away too during the commotion, kind of leaving Bobby Fish in there in the ring by himself to contend with both guys, and he gets locked in the snare trap, and Jungle Boy taps out Bobby Fish for the win. So, I don't know what kind of a rift that's going to cause between Cole and Fish. Cole seemed to be torn, like he kind of ran away. And he wanted to go save Bobby Fish, but he knew if he did save Bobby Fish, he'd get his ass kicked. So that's probably going to cause a little bit of a, some dissension there. Still not sure about the progress of Kenny Omega. Looks like he's going to be taking some time off for injuries, but he also was supposed to be evaluated by a doctor as well to find out maybe a time frame on that stuff. They teased a little bit of that on Dynamite when he said he was going to leave, and Cole said he'll handle things, and he, of course, was like, well, I was talking to the Bucks. So they're planting seeds for everything here. So I think Bobby Fish and this situation is just all part of that. So not a bad Rampage tonight by any means, but certainly not one of their best. And, it was just an okay show in my mind. So there you go. We got AEW out of the way, and unfortunately, we have to spend most of the time talking about the other company which we hate, WWE, because these bastards released 8 more wrestlers yesterday in more budget cuts after they had already released 70-something wrestlers this year, or whatever it is. I don't know what the total is up to now. It's way over 100 for the past 2 years. And this batch of names, a couple are not surprising, but a few really, really are. And I think the most surprising of everybody was Hit Row. It was weird enough. Well, actually, let's run through the releases first. Why don't we do that? Here's who WWE released yesterday on Thursday. The remaining 3 members of Hit Row, all of them, Ashante, Swerve, and Top Dollar. B-Fab, of course, was let go in the previous batch of releases. John Morrison, finally gone now from the company. A big missed opportunity again when they brought him back in after all these years, and they completely failed like idiots on capitalizing or potentially making him a main event player. Tegan Knox, who they just fucked 6 ways to Sunday here. This poor girl, she's torn her ACL like 3 times. She's battled so hard, fought so hard. Triple H and a lot of other coaches and a lot of people in charge in NXT really, really liked her, had plans for her. They brought her to the main roster. They teamed her with Shotzi. They got like 3 victories over the tag team champions. Then they split them up with no explanation. In the draft, they never put Tegan on TV, and now they release her. Fuck this company, man. God damn. Anyway, also, Drake Maverick was let go as well. And I'll talk about him in a second. Shane Thorne and Jackson Riker. We did talk about Jackson Riker the last couple of times. No, I don't want to see anybody lose their job. We're not going to be assholes here or anything like that. But I think it's pretty safe to say I'm not going to be crying over this one, tonight when I go to sleep. Shane Thorne, another perfectly good talent, but another guy that WWE just doesn't have any plans for, know what to do with, and the guy's just sitting there for no reason, so they got rid of him. And like I said a minute ago, Drake Maverick was let go really for the second time here. Now, I think we should kind of talk about these one at a time. Like I said, Hit Row, I believe, is probably the most surprising because these assholes called up this faction when many fans thought it was way too early of a call-up. They should have been able to develop some sort of an NXT legacy there and find out a little bit more what works and what doesn't, because even though the presentation I thought was very good and a lot of people were really high on it at first, nothing is really great when it first starts. It always evolves. DX, at its peak was nothing what DX looked like at first, so I think a lot of these factions and these ideas and gimmicks and stuff need to be given time to breathe and grow into something even more successful. And they pulled the trigger on him so early, bringing him up to SmackDown in that stupid fucking draft. And I'm like, I don't understand why they're doing this. None of these guys are ready. You got a championship belt around one of these guys already, the North American title. Now you're calling them up. They have one match on TV and you release them. So basically you call them up to activate their 90-day no-competes and let them go. So now it's got to be 3 months, where if you just would have let them go 3 weeks ago, it would have been 1 month. Well, man, I have a lot of boiling blood in my heart for this company right now with some of this shit. There are certain instances where you can always say, yeah, it's just business. You can understand a release here or there. That's fine. But the decisions into why these people are being released and budget cuts being cited is just fucking bullshit. How much money do you think was spent kind of developing the Hit Row gimmick and making the song and doing the shit? We saw that very, very unique vignette tonight on SmackDown for Xia Li. With all that money they put into it, I expect we'll see her release by Tuesday, the way this company operates. So that made no sense to me, and I'm no huge Top Dollar fan. I haven't really liked kind of the way he behaves and shit, and that could have been one of the reasons, and there were some reports that he maybe rubbed people the wrong way or got too comfortable. I wasn't a big fan of him on that Treasure show. I kind of thought whenever he would talk about WWE history or Andre the Giant, he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. He was usually saying incorrect shit. And then, Hit Row debuts. I like him and everything. I think he's a good talker and stuff. But some of his social media behavior, that sort of thing, is a little bit Jade Cargill-like, because she annoys me too. But Top Dollar, I don't care much about the gender stuff. And as a matter of fact, I probably, in terms of the argument Top Dollar was making to that, I might even be more on his side in that specific thing. But the fact that just the way he argues with people, and he brought up the sneaker shit, a few weeks ago, and he kind of thought he was king shit, and here now he's released and he's retweeting people saying he should go to AEW, when just weeks later he's, throwing shade at them, thinking he's got a job for life in WWE. Oh my, how quickly things can change and how poorly tweets can age in such a short amount of time. So him being gone, I think, sucks, because if it turns out that maybe he was the reason that the other two got released, well, they're like, well, let's just fucking can the whole faction then if we're going to release Top Dollar. You've released a supremely talented Isaiah Swerve Scott, who I'm really hoping is one of the guys that gets picked up by AEW, because in this group, obviously, they're not going to sign everybody. I'd say 2-3 max out of this crew might turn up over there, and maybe only 1 or 2 will actually get a contract. So, if it turns out to be him or something, I also think Swerve would be great in Impact and shit like that, so he could bounce around. But he shouldn't have been released. This guy was, one of Triple H's guys, and he had really improved a lot. He went from a guy that felt like he was lost in the shuffle in NXT to a champion. To a prime member of a new faction, kind of got more of a gimmick now. I thought his promo styles were different and interesting and offered something new. I liked the entire flavor of Isaiah Swerve Scott. So, that's just a big disappointment to me that he's a casualty here. And I don't know, what goes into these actual decisions, but to call them up and release them so quickly, and now that's going to cause them to have 90 days. That's so fucked up in more ways than I can even mention. John Morrison, it's not a huge surprise on this one, because Morrison hasn't really done a ton, but man, they brought him back, and plus they just released his wife a while back as well in the last batch of releases. So that whole situation's a little bit fucked up. And I don't think he deserved it either. No wonder this guy stayed away for so long, because he knew when he got back there, where if he was there, they would never use him in any sort of fun, meaningful way at all. And he was just a fucking goofball the whole time he was there. And again, he was second fiddle to The Miz, a guy that doesn't have an ounce of the athletic talent that John does. And it's just a shame. And now they've let him go. But luckily, he's John Morrison. He's going to be Johnny Mundo again. He was one of the guys that went out and achieved things outside of WWE, which means if he leaves, he can continue, that same success. And I think when it comes to him and Taya Valkyrie, they're not going to have any trouble getting bookings, making appearances. I'd like to see both of them in AEW, to be honest, because those are two names who I think can help. You got another veteran in Morrison. He's got history with guys there and can probably have some really fun matches, especially if you put him in there with the Lucha Brothers and shit like that. And Taya can really help the women's division. So they're two that I actually hope show up there as well, along with Tegan Knox. Poor Tegan, poor girl. She's got a fucking Terminator knee, that she's blown out 11 times. And for them to finally give her, some TV time, put her on the main roster with Shotzi, only just to shit can the whole thing and then let her go. 90% of these releases aren't the talent's fault. They are being released because WWE's lazy. They're being released because WWE's inept. They're being lazy because WWE has no plans for anything ever. They have no fucking idea what they're doing at all. And these people are suffering for it. And Tegan Knox is one of the more infuriating ones because it's just unfair. It's just unfair to do that to her. And you come off like huge dicks when you release someone like her. You want to release Shane Thorne, Jackson Ryker, Drake Maverick, anybody else that's just, spinning their wheels or whatnot, fine. But you could do something with Tegan. Fans like Tegan. And it's, I don't know. She tore her knee to shit in WWE's rings, and I just think they should have at least given her a chance. If it didn't work out, or if she got injured again, or for whatever reason they tried, but it just didn't work out, then I can understand it. WWE gave it their best. She injured herself multiple times. They gave her opportunities, and it just wasn't working out. She never got a chance, on the main roster after being drafted. I think she was drafted, correct? Never even gave her a chance. They just released her because they didn't feel like giving her anything to do, because they didn't feel like it. They released her because they didn't feel like it. Budget cuts my ass. It's because they didn't feel like it. I don't know how much these writers make. You want to cut some budgets, cut one of them motherfuckers and shed their salaries because they're useless. Drake Maverick is an interesting one. First of all, I got to shout out Drake Maverick. Have you guys seen the video that he posted? It was as if he knew this was coming. I think he already pre-made this vignette or this video that he released just a little while after he was let go. And I watched most of it. Even John Cena quote tweeted it and said it was awesome. And it was basically just a video of the video he made last time when he was released, remember? And he was like crying, and he had the WWE shirt. He looked pathetic, and he actually cried his way back into a contract. This time he got released, and, he immediately releases this video that it seems like he's been working on for a while or something. So they start playing the clip of the last video, and then he kind of shows up, and he's talking to himself, and he's like, nope, none of that. We're not going to do that this time. Everything they gave you, you turned into a success. You fought hard. You should be proud of yourself. You made your mark. You made the best of every situation ever handed to you. Get up. Don't be like this. It's time to go out there and fly, or whatever the fuck he said. It was about 2 minutes long, and it was excellent. Excellent. So it feels like he was somebody that was just waiting for that release to come, and he'll be back to being Spud or whatever the fuck next time he's available to go work somewhere. So if he turns back up in Impact, that will be fun. He's another guy that I think could be a personality in AEW. Maybe not somebody in the ring, wrestling a lot, but maybe just some sort of a personality, maybe a commissioner, maybe a manager of a faction or something like that. I think there is a place for him there. Shane Thorne and Jackson Ryker, wish them both the best, but, they weren't turning any heads in WWE. And if they were going to do releases, those are the type of names that I would expect to hear anyway. So, sometimes you can expect it. Sometimes you're like, what the hell is WWE thinking? So that whole situation is sad. At least it was only 8 names. I think we were all kind of waiting with bated breath for them to release another batch. You know, they're releasing a bunch of names right before a Big 4 pay-per-view. And, you know, what this must do to, I don't know, like the morale in the locker room. You know, you hear about how great morale is in AEW right now, and I've said many times that, you know, it's still to be yet to be seen if they maintain that. You know, when you're rolling and you're gaining momentum and people are taking notice, you know, that's when morale is always going to be high. When you start losing and things aren't going so good, that's when your morale is truly tested. And back in the WWE days, in the Attitude Era, you always heard that. You heard that during the WCW Monday Night Wars, that WWE locker room, because there were no real bona fide stars there other than like Taker and, you know, maybe Brett, the Savages and the Hogans and the big names were all in WCW. So, you know, in the Attitude Era, after Brett left and Hall and Nash and everybody was gone, you had a core group of guys there that hadn't quite reached superstardom yet that really banded together and really worked as a team effort to put those motherfuckers down. And I think that's what you have in AEW right now. But if things ever, you know, if things wear off or things go sideways or AEW hits a peak and, you know, the ratings go up, you know, 40% in the next couple of years and they're riding high, you know, and they're challenging WWE, you know, but then something happens and the tables turn or whatever and AEW maybe loses a TV deal or something happens and the wheels start coming off, that's when your morale is really tested. But, you know, I've always said that if wrestling wants a true competitor, you have to have money behind it, where it's not changing ownerships, you know, between, you know, parent companies and all that stuff. You need one guy with $1 billion to say, I want to start a wrestling company, and we have that now. So I think those type of situations of just, you know, losing deals and the wheels coming off and the whole company going to shit, I don't really think that's going to happen the way it's set up. So, you know, the morale right now does not seem to be very good in WWE, and literally no one is safe. I was watching SmackDown tonight and I saw Ridge Holland with Sheamus. And I'm like, you know what? What's stopping WWE from just releasing Ridge Holland? As soon as we saw him, we thought he was great. He blew out both his knees. He was out a year. He's back now. They've got him on the main roster, but that doesn't mean anything. A call-up is a death sentence. So how long is it going to be? Because remember when Baron Corbin had his little lone wolf guys and then 2 weeks later they were gone? So what if this little sidekick of Sheamus, WWE or Vince, this kooky old 75-year-old fucking lunatic, just decides he doesn't like the way he looks anymore, and we're just going to release Ridge Holland, a guy that we've spent time trying to develop, you know, and we haven't even given a shot yet. It's as if WWE is basically giving up on trying to compete with professional wrestling companies. You know, it doesn't even seem like they are interested in bidding wars anymore. You know, a couple of years ago, their philosophy was to own professional wrestling. They wanted to open up, you know, they wanted to buy out all the indie promotions, and they wanted to take every free agent with any sort of a buzz and bring them in NXT and create this like super indie fed. And all of this was great, you know, but unfortunately, they were taking all of the great talent out there and they were being able to outbid everybody because nobody else was around. Ring of Honor, you know, wasn't going to be able to keep guys like, you know, Kevin Steen and everybody else. So it was easy to lure them away. Even New Japan, you know, getting AJ and Finn Balor and guys like that and Shinsuke over there, WWE was able to compete financially to bring these guys in. Now it seems like if you are a talent with any sort of value at all, and you've got both companies that want you and are interested in you, boy, what in the world would make you want to go to WWE, at least right now? I mean, if you go to AEW, I mean, there might be a pay difference. I don't know. I think Tony Khan can compete with Vince's money, and it sounds like WWE is being a lot more tighter with their shit. So I think if Tony Khan wanted to outbid Vince, he could. But even if he didn't outbid Vince and the money was a little more close and the money was more equal, you know, what is greener on the WWE side? Oh, I'm going to go there to be mishandled, misused, mistreated, unrecognized for my ability, sitting in catering for 3 years, completely a slave to my contract. I can't do anything, you know, and then they decide to put me on TV, and then they give me 3 matches, and then they release me, and now I got to wait 90 days, and, you know, it's just, and then they release stories that I was difficult to work with, you know, and even if you're doing something valuable on TV, even if you're not in catering and you're on TV having a match, the very next day you can be released. Unless your name is Roman Reigns, I don't think you're safe. And I think it's only going to be a matter of time before these morons release someone who's holding a title. Like, they don't notice or they forget, oh shit, we just released one half of the women's tag team champions or something like that. What do we do now? Maybe they take that belt to Dynamite and drop it in the fucking trash can. So the releases are, this time around, it just gives you just the sickening feeling in your stomach. And I think WWE really changing gears here and changing their entire business philosophy to where they don't want to compete for free agents anymore. They're actually letting AEW have all of these guys. I think WWE now wants to make wrestlers in their own factory and just make their own. That's what they want. They're not interested anymore. Now that AEW's here, to give them a little bit of contention, all of a sudden they don't want to play the game anymore. Okay, forget it, because, the indie talent that, the smart fans most likely are going to be picking AEW now over WWE. So WWE just wants to get out of that completely so they don't look bad if somebody picks the other over them. Like, I really think that they're just not interested in going out there and bidding for guys anymore. They now just want to grow them themselves. I'm surprised this new headquarters they have is where it is. They should put it here in LA and just put it right between Netflix and Hulu and give all these wrestlers acting lessons and just turn it into a company like that. And based on the photos that we saw of Triple H today, that new headquarters looks pretty fucking sweet and looks like quite the building they've got there. So, if anything, I almost think that we need a third company. I know this sounds crazy, but I literally and I honestly feel like WWE and AEW are so far apart in what they do that I feel like AEW needs a competitor to help compete with some of these free agent names that we don't even want to see in WWE. If there's if there's a hot name for Japan, like think about Okada. If you were to bring in Okada here to the States to actually do something, in one of these big promotions, I would much rather see him in AEW than WWE. As a matter of fact, I don't want him anywhere near WWE. I don't want him in the same state as WWE. 3,000-mile restraining order between Okada and WWE is what we need. But what would be even cooler if there was another company, let's say Mark Cuban decides to get into the wrestling game and he wants to have a company and run it similarly to Tony Khan and attract that type of audience and that type of fan. And a lot of people will argue the wrestling can't handle a third promotion. You're probably right. But if we had that, holy shit, how cool it would be to have two professional wrestling companies vying for talent who is out there learning, working the indies, honing their craft, where WWE doesn't want to look at indie talent anymore. They want to build people in their factory and look for young people with good bodies, no wrestling ability at all, who they can train to be stars. So they're basically just going to be shuffling in 100 Mason Ryans and hoping that one or two of them are worth a fuck, and where the professional wrestlers, they might be running out of places to go now, because at one time WWE was signing everybody. Now they're not signing anybody. So if you are a indie worker with name, buzz, recognition, and people know who you are, I don't know if WWE's really calling you. AEW's probably the only one calling you. So now it's like, there's nobody even to leverage against, because WWE seems to be getting away from that. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a piece of talent here or there that both companies are going to want, and they will have to choose. But I don't think it's going to be coming up that much as you think. I think it's going to be mostly limited to when contracts are up. And in AEW, the more talent they add, the more guys are going to be lost in the shuffle there. So when contracts start coming up in AEW, there might be some that jumps to WWE, and certainly vice versa. Kevin Owens, does anybody think he's sticking around? I don't. I'm ready to see Kevin Steen on AEW Dynamite and winning that fucking Owen Hart Cup next year. Sami Zayn, same thing. Whenever his contract is up. Is he going to stick around? Hell no. I don't think he is. I was hoping WWE would release Ricochet. I want to see Ricochet in AEW. There's so many guys that WWE just sucks at using that would just be so much better off. But at the same time, you don't want to flood AEW with everybody. And when WWE releases so many people at a time, we're like, shit, now it's Punk and Bryan and fuck Bray Wyatt and Strowman is out there and a lot of big names. So based on the fact that I think AEW's women's division still needs some work, I have high hopes for Taya Valkyrie. I have high hopes for Tegan Knox. Would love to see them both over there, but that's not going to be the case for everybody. So best of luck to everybody that loses their job. Best of luck to everybody that changes their life to go work for WWE. You work your nuts off for them, and then they cut you loose without a thank you or anything, and give you a bullshit reason of budget cuts when they are reporting record profits every single time they have a quarterly earnings call. This company's evil. Evil, 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 I tell you. Anyway, so there you go. There's the latest on those WWE releases. I think we should also talk about Becky Lynch and Ric Flair. Now, this whole situation has been brewing because of the Becky Lynch and Charlotte heat. Both women have done interviews where they have talked about the falling out between them and how they are not friends. And Becky Lynch was on Ariel Helwani's show responding to some smack talk by Ric Flair. Now, Ric Flair had tweeted out something a few days ago about how he might have to make the trip himself to Survivor Series to watch Charlotte kick the shit out of Becky Lynch or whatever. And he's like, why the fuck? And so she was asked about that, and she just did a brilliant job, I thought, of really just slicing and dicing Ric Flair up. You know, she's like, I saw the tweet and I started making a response that was, a bit biting, and then I decided to delete it because, it's just really sad to see what he's become. This is Ric Flair, arguably the greatest professional wrestler of all time, and he's jealous of me. He's jealous of Becky Lynch. So that's cool for me, I guess, for him to get so worked up over this shit. And he would then respond, I believe on yesterday, with one of his ridiculous tweets, and nobody is more annoying on Twitter than Ric Flair. Did you ever notice, or I'm sure you have noticed, but if you read any of Ric Flair's tweets, you will see that he begins every word with a capital letter, and it just is disorienting, just kind of like his voice and his face. And he goes on to basically remind in this tweet, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's just bizarre and stupid, but he basically has to remind Becky Lynch that she wasn't the original man, she doesn't own the man, and he'll always be the man, and a woo or something like that. And I'm like, God, the nature boy, I'll repeat that, the nature boy would like Becky to know that she wasn't the first person to use a gimmick. Would you look at that? Huh? How interesting. Boy, you sure put her in her place, Ric Flair. Not only are you a dirtbag, you're so pathetic. This is Ric Flair. This is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And much like Hogan, he just disappoints the fuck out of me in his old age. We always knew he was a perverted dirtbag, but everybody kind of turned the other cheek, blind eye, whatever. The Plane Ride from Hell shit came out right before he was probably about to ink up with AEW to do some appearances there. And, and he's just still so jealous of the spotlight. And he's got a podcast now. Apparently he went to rehab for 30 days to get over his alcohol. He got his little coin. I'm sure he's going to follow through with that. And he's got a new podcast where he talked about wanting one more match. Says that he's in better shape now than he was when he had his match with Sting on the final Nitro. Bullshit. Bullshit. My God, this guy. So for the fact that he even cares so much about this, and a couple of years ago, or when Becky got over and he was making a stink about the man, WWE actually had to pay him to shut him up because he's all about money. I was on the Jericho Cruise when he was there. He's one of the only people charging for a meet and greet because he always needs money. He's a broke, irresponsible fucking drunk, and I'm sick of his shit. I don't like him, and I just I want nothing to do with Ric Flair anymore. He's just ugh. So Flair, get a fucking life, and you should be so proud of your career. You should be enjoying your fruits, man. I talked about the fruits the other night. You should be enjoying your fruits, but instead you're letting dumb, meaningless shit bother you. You're so possessive of your fucking legacy when you don't need to be, and you come off as unimaginably insecure. The fact that you have to lash out and remind everybody about you. Don't worry, Rick. We're not going to forget you. You're kind of hard to forget. So just relax and stop being such a little bitch. I'm on Becky's side 100%. I don't want anything to do with Charlotte or Rick at this point. They're both driving me nuts. Fuck the both of you. And Paul Heyman also did a little interview with Ariel Helwani as well, where he was asked about AEW, and he danced around it in one of the most beautifully exquisite Paul Heyman ways ever. If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you want the epitome of a Paul Heyman answer, that was it. Crack me up. Some other news, Triple H has been spotted walking around and touring the new headquarters for WWE that I guess they're on the verge of moving into. I think shit was delayed after the pandemic, so I think that's going to be a go maybe for next year, beginning of the year or whatnot. Don't even know. about that, but TikTok user Danielle Desma410 had a couple of videos of Triple H walking around the outside of this beautiful facility with Vince McMahon and a couple of other people. So he's up, he's moving around. Triple H, has been on my mind a lot, not only because of the cardiac event he had and the time and his, recuperation at home, but also because of what WWE has done to all of his hard work in NXT. Think about how much time, energy, effort he put in to personally grooming and building relationships with these talents and trying to get them ready. And then WWE changes business philosophies and they just trash them all. And, I just don't know how I would feel if I spent years doing a job only for it literally to be lit on fire in a matter of minutes. I'd be extremely bummed out. So the fact that Triple H is walking side by side with Vince and not pedigreeing his old ass into the cement is probably a good sign that things are okay there. But, Triple H, not only do I hope that his health is doing well, I hope his mentality is doing well too, because it's got to be extremely disheartening what WWE has done in the past, year or so to NXT. And of course, what it looks like now is pretty damn depressing. So best of luck to Triple H. Likely, I think Triple H is probably quietly retired. Not ruling it out that he could ever work again, but he had some sort of surgery or cardiac something. So, he might never get that farewell match or anything like that. So, feel bad for him. I know Triple H isn't that much of a sympathetic figure, but in terms of, the work he put into NXT, he does deserve credit for that. And I think he does have a much better mind and understanding of wrestling booking than Vince ever has, to be honest. And I'd much rather have, I was actually comfortable, even though I couldn't stand Stephanie, I can't stand Stephanie, I was relatively comfortable with the notion that Stephanie and Triple H will be running things when Vince dies. That seems to have changed now. That's not the case. Shane is back. They've got Nick Khan. Triple H has been demoted a couple of times. So who knows when Vince finally goes? It can't get any worse. Maybe they'll run with Bruce until he goes, and then they got to go with someone else. Based on who's back there now, I think the best option would be Shane or Triple H, but who knows? All I know is WWE, it ain't looking like my WWE that I always remembered growing up and shit, that's for sure. It's a pretty ugly looking company right now. Let's backtrack a little bit, talk about a couple of shows. I did not watch any of Monday Night Raw. They pulled in 1.58 rating with a 0.42 share, so not great. Like I said, my plan is to stream this coming Monday unless WWE just advertises a bunch of shit, or if Survivor Series is the worst pay-per-view we've ever seen, I ain't wasting my 3 hours. So like I said earlier, just stay tuned on Monday, may or may not be here. I got to get caught up a little bit on NXT because they have got War Games coming up very soon, and there's a decent looking card for that, but I don't really watch NXT anymore. I can't watch that shit either. I'm so bummed out about what they did. So the best I can do is eyeball it. They pulled in a rating of 574,000 this past week with a 0.11 share, and they're currently building War Games and NXT. It's a weird one right now. Dynamite this past week, we watched that together. I thought it was a fantastic show. I loved the stuff with Bryan Danielson coming out and healing up on Adam Page. That's going to make for a great match and a fun match. They were under 1 million viewers this week at 984,000 and a 0.37 share. So, they're hovering in that million range, 900 to 1.1. That's where they seem to be every week with Dynamite and holding steady there. So I thought the show on Wednesday was great. Definitely my favorite show of the week. And honestly, SmackDown tonight was typical shit that doesn't matter, but it wasn't that bad. There was some okay wrestling on the show tonight in a couple of segments I liked as well. So we will get into that in 1 second. Let me cruise over to the chat. I think I saw a super chat coming in earlier. Knock that out of the way. And then we'll run through SmackDown, and then it's time to predict Survivor Series. Off Leather Wings. There you go. I was looking for you. Thank you for that $5, man. Appreciate it. What if Undertaker's streak was reversed? If he lost 21 WrestleMania matches and finally beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30, hope all is well. If Undertaker, I don't think he would be working at WrestleMania if he lost that many in a row, unless it was just some sort of weird coincidence. But I don't know. The Undertaker's legacy would have been definitely different. The Undertaker's character would have been different without that WrestleMania streak, and not nearly as legendary as it was. So if he lost, and then he finally beat Brock, I guess maybe the fans would give it be like a Barry Horowitz situation, but I can't ever imagine Undertaker, of all people, in that situation ever. He wouldn't be the Undertaker that we know. Yeah, I'm glad Janine and Transferring Heat weren't the only ones that didn't think Raw or didn't think SmackDown was terrible tonight. We should start getting into that. So they open up the show with the Usos and Roman Reigns. Usos are out there first. They introduce Roman in this grand entrance. Of course, I didn't catch much of SmackDown last week, but I know he beat Xavier Woods and put the crown on and all that shit. So they had the throne, they had the scepter and the crown, and it was basically going to be like a coronation for Roman Reigns. So he comes out. And, Heyman, of course, continues to gargle his balls. I don't even know why Roman would want someone following him around like that. Yes, my tribal chief. Yes, my tribal chief. Give me your balls. I'll put them in my mouth. Yes, my tribal chief. I don't even like that. I've been in the position of authority before, and I've had people kiss my ass. I hate it. So I was like, I don't understand why Roman would even want someone that annoying following you around, just smooching your balls every chance he gets. So Roman, of course, you can never trust him. So poor Heyman and poor Usos have to constantly walk around on eggshells on Mr. Grumpy Pants here, because no matter what they do, it seems like he's always going to have a problem with it. So he comes out, says a few words, and then kind of looks around at the coronation setup, and he goes, whose idea was this? Do you guys think I want this? Think I need this shit, this crown, this chair? I'm like, thank you, Roman Reigns. I've been saying that for years. So he basically is like, I don't need all this crap. And then Xavier Woods, his music hits. I like his new theme. I'll get used to it. He comes out to the ramp and basically just challenges Roman to a confrontation, saying why don't you face me later tonight without your boys there? You're too much of a chicken shit to do that or whatever. And then Roman, and he also says that the crown and stuff doesn't matter to him. And Roman says, oh yeah, this doesn't matter to you. And they start tearing his shit up. So they get the scepter first, and one of the Usos breaks it over his leg, and then they pick up the throne, and they throw the throne out of the ring, and McAfee sells it like, it was an actual human being that landed at his feet there. And then Roman's got the crown. He's like, this really doesn't matter to you, and he's kind of threatening to stomp it and smash the crown. And before he can, Xavier then tries to run into the ring to save the crown. He's, of course, attacked by the Usos. It's 3-on-1. The Usos hold Xavier down as Roman Reigns crushes the crown, and it was so sad. Rest in peace to the crown. I said on Twitter that I think next week on SmackDown, Xavier should introduce the crown's brother, Lucifer. Let me know if you get that reference. Some of you probably don't. But it was kind of cool to see them hold him. It reminded me of, when Damien got the and watching his crown get smashed there. It's set up for a pretty interesting segment later on. So I actually liked that. I mean, the crown is so silly. Only Xavier Woods can make this stuff okay. Xavier Woods even had a Wet Bandits reference. Out of anybody else's mouth, I would have rolled my eyes over that, but Xavier Woods somehow just makes it okay. So we're always pro Xavier here on the channel. So those two would be headed for a confrontation later on. We then I've basically taken the last couple of weeks off from WWE programming, so I know that they announced the Survivor Series teams on Twitter, only to completely dismantle those teams the very next day on TV and start moving around team members and kicking people off and having people qualify. This company doesn't know what it's doing. So apparently they've been moving team members around left and right. They put Bobby Lashley on the Raw team, replacing, I believe, Dominic. And now you've got a match, and I didn't really watch last week, so I don't know who was booted off the team, but we got a fatal four-way here. It's going to be Sheamus against Jinder Mahal versus Cesaro versus Ricochet. The winner will be the final member added to the Survivor Series team, but they announced the team already, so they keep moving shit around. I don't know. I can't keep track of it. I don't want to keep track of it. I hate them. So match is great. This was a fun fatal four-way. Sheamus, I love him. He's so good. It was very sad to see the Bar trading blows here. I was hoping they would kind of reunite again since they are on the same brand, but they continued to fight each other. Jinder was in this match. Ricochet was doing springboards and dives and stuff, and it was actually a really, really good fatal four-way. In the end, you had Ridge Holland coming out to, I can't even remember who he distracted. I think it was Cesaro. Or Ricochet. They ate a brogue kick, and Sheamus pinned them for the win. So Sheamus and his sidekick move on, and Sheamus is now on the Survivor Series team officially, and the team is now, I believe, official. After that, we go backstage for a Jeff Hardy interview. He's wearing an Edge t-shirt, which I thought was funny. He's interrupted then by Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. These two guys are just fucking idiots. Adam Pearce shows up, winds up making a match between Madcap and Jeff for later on in the night. Yippee. Then we get a tag team match. Natalya and Shayna Baszler taking on Aaliyah and Naomi. Didn't pay much attention to this one until the end when the referee does the fast count on Naomi. And I think it's Natty who got the pin there. So the referee was paid off by Sonya Deville, and Sonya's continuing to mess with Naomi. At some point, they better pay this thing off. So we then go backstage to Sonya Deville and Sami Zayn. Sami is pissed about his documentary and the conspiracy and a whole bunch of other things. And that's when Sonya announces that at Survivor Series, there's a new match added. It's going to be a 20-man battle royal or a 25-man battle royal. I forgot which one it was. It's going to be a big battle royal in honor of The Rock's 25th anniversary debut. We just did a watch along of Survivor Series 96 last Sunday. So she says that Sami is in that and he's entered, and if he does wind up winning, then he can reach heights and maybe reach the millions and millions or whatever. And I swear when Sonya said millions, you heard The Rock's voice go, and millions. And I was like, did I hear that correctly? So it sounds like they had The Rock's voice spliced in there, but I wasn't paying that much of attention because I was doing other stuff and, wasn't paying super close attention, but I did hear that. And let me just look at this graphic because I had it pulled up here for this Battle Royal. So based on the field for this Battle Royal, and this will probably change by Sunday, mark my words, but here are the faces that I see. Ricochet, Dijakovic, who is that? Mansoor, Cesaro, Street Profits, Omos, I think he's the odds-on favorite. AJ, Drew Gulak, whose name we have not seen in these released batches, which is nice. R-Truth, Viking Raiders, Sammy, Los Lotharios, Apollo and Aziz, Chad Gable, who I believe of everybody here should win this thing, but he won't. Otis, Veer, or no, that's Shanky, or it's Veer. I don't know. I think it's Veer. Jinder Mahal, Bobby Roode, Dolph, Cedric, and Shelton. So of those names there, Omos seems like the guy who's going to win this, but if it's a battle royal in honor of The Rock, they might want it to be a babyface or something. But who would that babyface be? Ricochet? I don't know. When I look at that field there, when I look at those faces, the one I want is Chad Gable. Chad Gable all the way. Will WWE do that? No, they will not. Not even close. There's no chance in hell that Chad Gable will win that, but we'll predict that later on. After the Sonya and Sami segment, we then get the Jeff Hardy and Madcap Moss match. Drew McIntyre came out to offer some assistance and wound up helping Jeff Hardy fend off Corbin. Hardy gets the win, and after the match, Drew hits Corbin with a Claymore, and Hardy swantons Madcap Moss. Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Angel Garza in a one-on-one match. Garza had fellow Los Jose Lothario Humberto Carrillo with him, and Nakamura, of course, had Boogs. After that, we got a good little women's match here. I enjoyed this one. The backstage promo prior to the match was shit between Shotzi and Sasha. Man, these backstage promos are tough to watch. They are so inauthentic. You don't feel them at all. They're such bad actors, all of them. And it was just shit. And as somebody else, one of my friends on Twitter pointed out to me tonight, some of the stuff in the ring isn't really setting the world on fire either. But man, those backstage promos are terrible. Terrible. So anyway, the match in the ring, though, was really good. I enjoyed the match, and they even gave these ladies a little bit of time, which was nice. In the end, Shotzi does tap out to Sasha Banks, and Sasha attempts a handshake after the match. I think she shakes it and then backstabbers Shotzi after the match as well. So Sasha picked up the big win there. And then we got a very weird Xia Li vignette. Now, they were really developing her story in NXT when she was there. And I really liked what they were doing with her because she really does seem like a badass. She seems, like I said back when she was in NXT, she seems like, to me, someone who could maybe fill the Asuka void. Still don't know if WWE ever will bring back Asuka or what's going on there, but feels like Asuka's best days are probably behind her. You might need another tough-ass woman, on your roster who you are scared shitless of, like Asuka used to be. So I felt like they were going in that direction a little bit with her in NXT, and I didn't even really know what I was watching here because since I live on the West Coast, I can't get SmackDown live on Fox because it airs local time. For Raw, it airs live for me, but when it's on a major network like Fox, I have to wait until 8 p.m. So the only way I could see SmackDown tonight, excuse me, the only way I could see SmackDown tonight was to pull up like a stream on the internet, and I was watching just a random TV station somewhere in the country. So I'm kind of making my notes and I'm typing, and I see this shit on the screen. I'm like, I thought my stream crapped out. I'm like, oh, fuck. Because you know how they are. You've used those illegal streams before. Sometimes they just die or they start playing something else. And I legitimately thought that I had picked up some anime channel or something, and I actually closed it out and went back to the original page and reopened it because I didn't think it was SmackDown. And when I reopened it, that's when I see Xia Li. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell did I just watch? So that was a very, very unique presentation and vignette there for Xia Li. But, you know, are you even close to excited about this? I would like to be, but shit, based on how much money WWE spent likely on producing that unique vignette for Xia Li, she'll be released by Tuesday at lunch, you know, at this rate. So I'm not even remotely interested in this gimmick because I don't think WWE has, any real plans to make it special because they don't have plans to make anything special. And I just don't trust them at all. So best of luck to Xia Li. I think she's awesome. And I think that she's not going to deserve what they do to her. After that, we get a Toni Storm promo. Charlotte interrupts her, kind of sets up a little match for, I believe, next week, although they didn't come out and say next week. But Charlotte said that she would give Toni Storm a match after Survivor Series, so we'll probably get that next week on SmackDown, which isn't bad because I don't think we've ever seen those two face each other before. Toni and Charlotte should be fun. And then finally in the main event, we get the big confrontation between Xavier Woods and Roman Reigns. I loved this, and I could kind of see it coming. I figured with this being the go-home show to Survivor Series that Big E should probably show his face here. So when he didn't come out in the beginning, I was pretty confident we were going to see him here. So Roman goes out to the ring. He pretends as if he wants to go at it alone and he doesn't need the help of the Usos and whatnot. So he comes out to the ring, and the whole thing is a ploy to try to jump Xavier Woods. So when Roman is out to the ring and Xavier comes out, the Usos are going to jump him, but instead they get jumped. They get laid out, and you got two laid out Usos in the aisleway, and you knew it was going to wind up being Big E. His music hits face to face with Roman in the aisleway. They brawl in the ring. And Big E, alongside his friend Xavier Woods, get the better of the bloodline and run them off. And Big E and Xavier stand tall ahead of Big E's huge match against Roman at Survivor Series, which I am not expecting Big E to win. So the fact that he got his last laugh here is probably the best Big E is going to do. I don't know. I don't understand why WWE wants to book themselves in these champion versus champion matches because you got three situations here where I think you could possibly just do bullshit finishes, and I think that's going to annoy the fans. I'm not really interested. Well, I guess with Damian Priest and Nakamura, I feel like they're very evenly matched, but Damian Priest, they're really pushing hard. So, him, I feel like he could really actually defeat Nakamura, but I feel like they could schmozz that one. They definitely are going to have to do something shady with Charlotte and Becky. And then, I think Roman's going to beat Big E, but I don't know if you're really going to want to beat him clean either. So you're just going to have a whole bunch of just weird shit where you carefully book everything and everybody to where nobody is perceived to be weaker than the other. And that's just, WWE can't book regular wrestling, much less complex wrestling. So, what kind of show are we going to get here tomorrow? A shitty one, most likely. And that leaves us to Survivor Series Sunday night. We're going to predict that now. Those of you who are here in the chat, if you would do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And we're going to now predict Survivor Series. So like I said, tonight on SmackDown, they announced a new match for the show. I don't think this is going to be on the kickoff. I hope not, but it might be. And that's the Rock Battle Royal. So it looks like a 20-man Battle Royal in honor of The Rock's 25th anniversary debut. Don't know if this is going to be an annual thing. Probably not. So this will be a one-time deal. But like I just talked about, we ran through all the names in the field a minute ago. I think it's got to be Omos in that. How do you get Omos out if he doesn't win it? A bunch of people are going to have to gang up on him. They're going to have to do the Andre thing to him. But a big guy like that WWE really seems to be high on, you should probably have him toss all 20 of these wrestlers out because there's nobody in there that's a really huge star, other than AJ or anything like that. There's no Lashley's or, anybody super huge to toss him out. Maybe Veer, I suppose. or that's Shanky. I always get them confused. Whichever one's with Jinder. So I think he's like the odds-on favorite. But you see somebody like Chad Gable in there, who WWE's actually been given some newer matches to anyway on TV. And it makes you wonder, maybe they've noticed and remembered that they got a fucking Olympian on the roster here. Maybe they want to do something with him. And it's kind of cool to see that. So I think Gable should be the guy to win the Battle Royal, but I don't think Gable will be the guy to win the Battle Royal. So I'm picking Omos. Just mentioned Damian Priest and Shinsuke Nakamura a minute ago. I'm really looking forward to this match because I think it's going to be awesome. These are two like lanky guys, and they're both, they're both veterans. They both got some years on them. And they're both really good with awesome styles. Don't know if that's going to translate working together or not, but it is an interesting matchup and one that I don't think we've really seen, and they're both champions. In the end here, based on how WWE is pushing Priest, I feel like it's got to be Priest winning this match over Shinsuke Nakamura, because Priest has not really lost or gone down in any sort of significant way, and I don't think they're going to do it here in just a thrown-together match made only for the purposes of the Survivor Series. So I'm going Priest over Nakamura. We got the two sets of tag team champions going at it. Raw tag team champions RK Bro taking on SmackDown tag team champions, the Usos. I'm going to go RK Bro. I'm going to go RK Bro because I think Roman's going to retain in the main event. So, what might be the main event, might not. So I think RK Bro should get the victory here. You can do, again, just like every other match on this shit, you can do distraction finishes or whatnot just to, keep everything kosher. It's probably what they're going to do here. We'll probably get a great in-ring match, but in the end, it's going to be lazily booked. So big surprise. And of course, we've got Becky Lynch taking on Charlotte Flair. We talked a lot about this earlier on with the Becky and Charlotte Ric Flair situation and everything going on behind the scenes between those two. And I had pitched the idea earlier on in the very beginning of the show here where WWE should really have some fun and maybe think about doing some sort of a call back to the screw job here. And it could even be like a worked shoot type of deal. Unfortunately, I don't trust WWE. Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn would never know how to produce anything to make it look like it's real. They couldn't even do that back in the day when, Vince was a little bit less dumb. They certainly can't do it now. So I don't trust them to try to pass something off as a shoot. But man, if they could. If they could figure out a way to do it to where you have some sort of a weird finish to Charlotte and Becky, don't have Vince coming out there being all animated and ringing the bell or something. Do something a little bit more subtle to where it appears like that wasn't the plan or some sort of an audible was called. And you have Becky roll up Charlotte for a quick, maybe fast count, roll out of the ring, grab both titles, and leave the arena. And then Charlotte, flips out. And then, you don't film it because then it would be too obvious. But then you leak some report to Sean Ross Sapp or somebody else like that. Be like, yo, Charlotte stormed out of backstage area, yelled at Vince McMahon, flipped everybody off, says, I don't want to work here anymore, and I want out of here, and stormed and left the building. And then you wait another day, and you announce that Charlotte's been granted her release from the company. Unconditional. No compete clause. And the very next available Dynamite, she turns up in AEW, and they actually let her go there. They voluntarily let Charlotte go to AEW with the understanding that she'll go there for like 3 years and then come back. But, it would be great for the Forbidden Door. It would get Charlotte with her fiance for a few years and away from maybe the toxic environment with these women and the animosity and all that. Let Becky be, the new center of the women's division, and Charlotte, Becky, basically WWE's, it's not big enough for the both of them type of thing, and let Charlotte go there. And in a way that would kind of act as her being stripped of the title, but she can be on Dynamite saying, I'm their champion. I never lost. It was a non-title match or whatever. It might be fun. That's a lot of fun, though. And WWE is no fun. And as fun as that sounds, that would be extremely unlikely. Even if Vince and Tony Khan got together for a grilled cheese sandwich and talked about it and say, hey, how about we do this? I'll give you Charlotte, and, let's keep hush-hush about it, and we'll work everybody. It would benefit both companies, and, who knows. But in the end, I don't think it's going to be like that. In the end, I think WWE is going to have to book this match in such a way that neither woman is going to lose face for the other, because you got these egos to worry about, especially with Charlotte, who's growing more annoying by the day, And I don't know how you put over either one of them here over the other one. So I think a double DQ would be so fucked up and so lazy, and I'd be hugely pissed if WWE did that, considering this is the only match that really has any interest at all or is generating any interest from the fans at all because of the real-life shit here. And I had pitched even putting this match in the main event, especially if you wanted to do some sort of a big angle here. But, if the animosity between these two is very real and they're not just playing it up for the purposes of the match, then WWE is going to probably have to be very careful how they handle this and just get through this match, in one piece and on the other side of it. And I'm hoping that, these women aren't allowed just to, have so much freedom, and that Vince or somebody in charge got the two of them in the room and said, look, motherfuckers, the two of you are going to get along and go out there and do goddamn business if it's the last thing I do, or I'm taking the titles off of both of you and, going to start pushing other women that, aren't so up their own asses or whatever. I just hope there was a come to Jesus meeting, where somebody was like, enough of this shit. You're professionals. Stop acting like assholes. Get out there and do your job. I hope that happened. And if it did, we could see a really good match here. But if things are still touchy, we could see an absolute clusterfuck. It could go either way. So I'm hoping it's good. I was in the crowd 3 years ago at Survivor Series to watch Charlotte and Ronda, and I was blown away with how that match went and how the fans reacted to it and stuff. And it made for a great WrestleMania match when the three of them were fighting and they were kicking out cop car windows and all that stuff. I think with Charlotte and Becky, there could be some interesting things go down, because 3 years ago at Survivor Series, that was a real thing that happened. I think the way the crowd reacted that night, I was sitting there in the crowd going, what the fuck? After these morons spend their every waking minute of the day screaming at the top of their lungs how bad they hate Charlotte, all of a sudden they're happy that she's beating the shit out of Ronda. And Ronda was like looking around the crowd like, what the fuck? And I think that night is what made Ronda never come back, because she was like, fuck these guys. They don't even know what they want, and I'm not going to kill myself for them. They don't deserve it. So I think Becky and Charlotte on Sunday has the potential to be something that we're never going to forget, or it's going to have the potential to be something that we want to immediately forget. Place your bets in the chat. All right, and then, of course, we've got Big E taking on Roman Reigns, WWE Champion versus Universal Champion. I'm guessing this will be the main event unless they go with the men's Raw and SmackDown match or Charlotte and Becky. Seems like anytime Roman's on the card, he's the main event, so he probably will be the main event. And I'm going Roman Reigns. I think there's going to be a lot of interference. Excuse me. I definitely think you're going to see the Usos out there. You're definitely going to see Xavier. I don't even know where Kofi is. I'm sorry for being unaware of that. He's probably hurt or something. So in the end, though, I don't think Roman is going to take a loss. When the loss that he takes finally happens, I don't think it's going to be here in one of the most poorly booked pay-per-views of all time, in a match, in a non-title affair and all of that. I mean, it would be a huge win for Big E, and I would like nothing more to see Big E get that moment, because I don't think anybody's a bigger Big E fan in the YouTube community than we are here. However, I also want to be realistic, and I just don't think, based on how WWE is doing things right now, that he's going to get that win. I think WWE is going to do their best like they did with Drew last year. I actually do think that they did a solid job of giving Drew the loss, but still leaving a bone to pick later down the road for Roman, which I think is probably coming up. Roman will probably run into Drew here in the beginning of the year, maybe even wrestle him on that January 1st pay-per-view. Wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens. Big E, you can kind of do the same thing here. He can lose, but he can come out the next night on Raw and be like, Roman, we ain't done. That was horseshit, and you know it. Next time we come face-to-face, it's going to be a different outcome. That's kind of where I'm thinking it's going to go, just a carbon copy of what we saw last year. So I'm picking Roman over Big E. And then we've got the men's and women's SmackDown versus Raw matches. This is how lazy I am. I didn't even feel like typing down these names because the teams have changed so much. So I just saved the graphic over here. So I can rattle off these participants. Let's start with the women's Survivor Series match, Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. Team Raw is comprised of what I guess is the team captain, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Zelina Vega. They're taking on Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Shotzi Blackheart, Natalya, and Toni Storm. I have given zero thought to this match in terms of who's going over, who's going to survive. But when I look at this field, there's one shining bright star that I see, and that's Bianca Belair. I think Sasha is already a made woman. I think Rhea Ripley should have already been a made woman, but of course WWE fucked that up. And Bianca Belair is still there, and they haven't completely screwed her over yet. And I think a showdown and her reclaiming the women's title, beating Becky Lynch in the future, still needs to happen. I have not given up on that. So I think Bianca Belair should go full diesel here and basically just eliminate everybody. So I think Bianca either eliminates a bunch of people but then winds up getting eliminated herself, or she winds up winning the match. And I think she needs to win the match. So I'm going to predict the Raw team to win. I don't know who's going to survive. I just know that Bianca's going to survive. So Bianca, either by herself or with friends, I think is going to win the Women's Survivor Series match. So I'm going Raw, which means I feel like I got to go SmackDown. If I'm going to go Raw for the women, I should go SmackDown for the men, because another thing you have to keep in mind here, not only with the egos of Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and making sure that all stays okay, you got to think about Fox and USA. And these two little bitch networks bitching at each other and complaining about who they have and who wins matches. Now WWE's got to keep them in their minds in terms of who's going over here. They don't really even necessarily have free reign to book their product the way they want anymore, because they got to worry about what the networks are going to think, which is another reason why I think brand supremacy pay-per-views are fucking stupid. And you're right off the heels of what was a WrestleMania-sized crown jewel that was just a couple of weeks before Survivor Series. Survivor Series has really suffered. This is a poor-looking card, poorly built, with very little fan expectations at all. So when it comes to the Raw and SmackDown matches, I don't care who wins. Do you? No. So we're picking we're picking Raw for the women. So let's pick SmackDown for the men. By the way, let's run through the field. Team Raw is Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, Kevin Steen, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins taking on Drew McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, King Xavier Woods, Baron Corbin, and Sheamus, who qualified last tonight on SmackDown. So looking at that field on Raw, you got some big names there, former WWE champion in all four of those guys, with Austin Theory being the lone rookie there, and then a whole bunch of good talent on the other side. Both teams have coexisting issues, so take a drink on Sunday every time you hear that stupid word. But, I think with these 5-on-5s, Raw is one and SmackDown wins the other, plain and simple. So if I've picked Raw for the women, I got to pick SmackDown for the men. And I'm probably on that. Looking at that field, I can see McIntyre surviving. And because I think, like I said, Roman is going to need a challenger. I think Roman and Brock might be, it looks like they're being saved for WrestleMania, or, maybe at the earliest the Royal Rumble, but most likely WrestleMania. So Roman needs some quality challengers before then. And Drew McIntyre is sitting right there. You give him a good outing here and you have him, victorious, maybe the sole survivor, maybe even put Drew in a 3-on-1 situation and have him overcome it. Put Drew in there with Seth and Austin and Lashley or something, and he somehow beats all three and wins. Now he can come out on SmackDown and saying, hey, given my performance at Survivor Series, I think Roman, I'm the next in line for that title, and then they build to that January 1st pay-per-view. That's what I feel like they could do. So I'm going SmackDown. So just to recap, Omos to win the Battle Royal, Priest to beat Nakamura, RK Bro to beat the Usos. I'm going to go... Did I even predict the winner there? I don't think I did in Becky and Charlotte. I'm going to go Becky. I'm going to go Becky winning over Becky and Charlotte. After all of that Becky and Charlotte talk, I never even gave you a fucking prediction. So I'm going to go Becky over Charlotte, Roman Reigns over Big E. I'm going to go Raw team to win the women's 5-on-5 and SmackDown team to win the men's 5-on-5. There you go. I think that's a pretty good balance of heels and baby faces. Although I keep thinking of Becky as a face, she really isn't. But I think she's going to be the face in that match. So if you have the face win the champion versus champion match for the women, the heel win the champion versus champion matches or match for the men, and then you give each brand a victory, which I've done. So you got Becky as a Raw person getting the victory over SmackDown, Roman as a SmackDown person getting the victory over a Raw person, and each show wins a 5-on-5. That's about as even as you can fucking do it. Although I do have Priest and RK Bro both going over. And I got Gable's on, is Gable on Raw or SmackDown? Gable's on Raw too. Fuck. So I actually do have Raw. Omos. I said Gable because I have Gable written down, but Omos is a Raw guy. So I've got Raw winning the Battle Royal and the USIC match and the tags. I feel like I got to change one of those. I feel like I might have to change the tags to Usos. Might have to change that. I don't know, but I'm not. I'm going to stick with my original picks. We'll see how I do, but that does give Raw the slight edge if they win all of those matches. That's only going to give SmackDown, I believe, 2 victories with Roman over Big E and the women's 5-on-5. So, yeah, I guess that's about as even as you can make it. So there you go. Agree, disagree. Who do you think is going to win, lose some of these matches? And at the end of the day, is it even really that important? I don't think it is. So, anywho, let me see if anybody's got anything else to say in the chat, and then I'm going to get out of here. It looks like Transferring Heat has got a lot to say. Football talk. Yeah, we got, what is it, Steelers-Chargers is going to be the Sunday night game. That might not be so horrible. No, the Fox and USA networks are not on my Christmas list at all. I didn't even know Cam Newton was back on the Panthers until this past week when I saw him throw a touchdown. I'm like, what the hell? I pay so little attention. I'm in second place in my fantasy league, despite the fact that I'm phoning this shit in. In 3 weeks so far this year, I've completely forgot to set my lineup and had dudes missing, and I still wound up winning. So I'm doing okay. But I didn't even know that Cam Newton made his way back to Carolina. Good. It feels like that's his home. It's always kind of fun to see those homecomings and shit when they happen. Do me a favor too, mash the thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. I'm going to be getting out of here in just a second and finishing up the bells and whistles on tomorrow's review, tomorrow's podcast. Like I said, it's a fun one. We're going to talk about transitional champions in WWE and WCW history. So we're going to be talking about Ivan Koloff and the Iron Sheik and we're going to be talking about The Miz. We're going to be talking about Jeff Hardy. We're going to be talking about Ric Flair in late 92. We're going to be talking about Sergeant Slaughter. We're going to be talking about all sorts of guys throughout history that were considered transitional champions to move the belt from one person to another and all that stuff and a lot of those storylines and the reasonings and the factors behind it. We talk Foley in 99. We talk a lot of guys, CM Punk, bunch of names in there to get into, and it was one of the more fun podcast to record. I just ended up saying, wow, like I was writing down notes for it all by memory. I'm like, man, I'm thinking about dudes left and right. This is going to be a great podcast. So it was fun to record that. That'll hit the channel tomorrow, so keep a lookout for that. And should be a fun weekend. So that'll do it. You guys have a great rest of your Friday evening. Hit the thumbs up button out the door. Don't forget to go over to my channel right now and pull up my review link for tomorrow and keep that saved so you're here. My review link for Sunday. Keep that saved so you're here with us immediately after Survivor Series so we can talk about what I hope will be a really good show and not a stinking bag of trash. So we will find out. You guys take care. Enjoy your Friday night. And I will catch you tomorrow for that special episode. Y'all take care. Peace.